Evening, folks. Come on in to the BSMS webinar. We'll give people a few minutes to join us and then we'll make a proper start. Time. We are expecting a lot of people, but the sun is shining. It's shining here on the south coast. And we haven't had much of that yet this calendar year, so it may stop people from attending. But we'll just give people another minute or so, and then we will start. Okay, no one else appears to be coming in. The numbers are frozen, so I'm going to, as I say, when my jump comes in, but I'm going to start anyway. Evening, everybody. Welcome to the BSMS Virtual Open Day, an opportunity for us to tell you a little bit about who we are and what we do, give you a chance to find out about us, and ask a few questions, find out about our admissions processes, and try and help you make up your mind about what medical schools to choose. In our view, we're an obvious choice. We hope to cement that today. So I'm Darren. I am the admissions tutor, head of admissions at the medical school, and I'm joined by one of our third year students, Emily, who's going to give you a wave and say hello, hopefully.
Hiya.
There you go, brilliant. Emily will just, at the end of my talk, just give you a few minutes of her time to talk about student life at BSMS, and she'll also answer any of the questions that we get that are related to student life. So in terms of questions, if you look on the screen, you'll find a Q&A box. Okay, if you could use that, I'd be very grateful. Use that for your questions. And the reason why I ask you to use that is because that means that we don't have to keep repeating questions. You can vote. If there's a question there, you can just press thumbs up, and then we know that more than one person wants to ask that question, and those questions will be there for us to deal with later. One or two we might just type the answer in along the way. I'll tell you now, if you put a question in the chat, it won't get answered, because we're not going to look at the chat. We're just going to look at the Q&A bit. So if you go to the bottom of the screen, you've got the more button with the three little dots. Press on them. Q&A comes up. Press on that, and that gives you the screen for question and answers. So use that for asking your questions. Right, let us make a start. So welcome to BSMS, Brighton and Sussex Medical School. We are a joint venture between the University of Brighton, the University of Sussex, and local NHS trusts. We started life in 2003, which means this year, as a medical school, we are 20 years old. So we're a young medical school, still forging our way in the world of medical schools in the UK, but steadily over the years built a good reputation for a good medicine degree, good opportunities for our students, good student life, and a good city for students to live in and to practice the craft of medicine and to learn their stuff. And talking of our students, you can see it on the screen, it says they have full membership of both universities and that are parents and have access to both institutions' facilities. So if you don't know, and actually I meet lots of folk from overseas and sometimes people from the UK who actually don't know where Brighton is. We're just over an hour on the train from London Victoria, the main railway station in the centre of London. You can see on the map there that yellow pin that's been dropped right on the coast. And then on the other map, you can just see, it just gives you an idea of where we are, the other yellow pin on the campus of Falmer, just outside of the city. It's 3 miles from the centre of Brighton and Hove. It's I think it's a 10-minute train ride from Falmer to the station in the heart of the city. And you can also see there the other yellow pin that's been dropped is the Royal Sussex County Hospital, which is our main teaching hospital in the centre of Brighton. And it says EB, and that's the Audrey Emerton building, which is our teaching building on the hospital site. We'll talk about those places a bit more in a little while. There goes a nice aerial shot of the campus up at Falmer. You can see there the white pin that's been dropped for the medical school teaching building. That's on the University of Sussex campus. You can see that's quite a sprawling campus. And if you look just above where we've got the Brighton and Sussex Medical School, just here, if you can see my cursor, that's part of the Sussex site as well. That's the sports facilities. You can see it's all around here. That's accommodation and teaching buildings. And then over here, we've got the University of Brighton. That's a multi-campus university. That's one of its sites up at Falmer that we teach in the Watson building there. And this big thing here, in case you don't know, is Brighton and Hove Albion Football Ground, who are a Premier League football team, for those of you who are interested. And for those of you who aren't, well, you know now, don't you? So here's our ethos statement. I'm not going to read this out. I'm just going to give you a few seconds to read it yourselves while I have a quick glass of, not glass, a drink of water. Okay, so that's what we drive to achieve and how we try to deliver our education at BSMS. And I think the most important bit is that last small paragraph, those last two lines. And that's our commitment to equality and diversity. So, you know, we try and treat everybody the same, regardless of gender, race, religion, sexuality, age, disability. And that's not just for our students, that's how we treat each other as staff, but also, probably more importantly, how we deal with patients. So that's a real important part of how we deliver our curriculum. So selection for medicine, as you may or may not know, goes through something called UCAS. There's no direct pathways to apply to us. You have to apply for UCAS. And as you can see, the deadline is in October each year. It's always the same date. It's always the 15th of October. So you have to get your application in by then. And that's always the year before you want to start. So you'll be applying this year in October 2024 for 2025 entry. And there's a few stats there about how competitive things are. You can see there's quite a large number of students, it's not students, of people applying to be medical students around the UK. There was a bit of a dip over the last couple of years. We've gone down from 24,000 down to just over 19,000 nationally. But these things happen. It goes in cycles. One of the reasons is that actually there's less 18-year-olds around and they make up the bulk of our applicants. So that the birth rate fluctuates and that has an impact on applications. And you can see the numbers of applications that we receive at BSMS. So just over 1,100 for home students, just over 400 for international overseas fees payer, Channel Islands and EU students. We have 193 places for UK students, although actually I have to say for 2025 entry, it's going to be 197. We've just been awarded another 4 for 2025. And we have 10 or 11, depends on how many numbers we have across the whole course, but it's 10 or 11 overseas students that we take each year. So competitive, you can see, you know, if you've got 429 applications from overseas and only 10 places, that's a pretty competitive process. Sorry, move the cursor. Okay, so a little bit more about us, and something that we like to tell people about is the success we have in the National Student Survey. There's lots of tables and charts and things out there that you can look at. And most of those tables are done on data that's driven before students get to medical school. So entry profiles and UCAS tariff points and things like that. We like to use, in terms of trying to show people how good we are, the National Student Survey. And the National Student Survey is conducted every year. It's just closed for this year. It's done every year, and it's students around the whole UK on every degree course in their final year, about to graduate. And they're asked to complete an anonymous survey to let the world know what their experience at university, their chosen university and their chosen course has been like. Lots and lots of questions around all sorts of around teaching, assessment, facilities, and we, as you can see, have done reasonably well over the years. 2018, 98% overall satisfaction for the whole course from our graduates, which put us top of everything in the UK, the top course in the UK. Out of every degree course there is. We had a bit of a drop in 2022, as you can see, down to 81%. We don't hide that. We've deliberately put it there, because we've had these lovely high stats from 2018. And then we had a bit of a drop. That cohort were hugely affected by COVID and had a lot of online teaching, and it impacted on their clinical teaching as well. Not a lot we could do about that. We're not saying that's the whole reason. There were other things that didn't go quite right, and we acknowledge that. But you can see we're starting to increase again. 92% positive reaction for the teaching on the course from the cohort that graduated in 2023. So let's just talk a little bit about the curriculum. I'm not going to go into a great deal of detail here because a lot of this is the same across the board with other medical schools, and a lot of this you'd expect to see, but it just gives you a few ideas of how things look. We have an integrated systems-based approach to our teaching. So that means we integrate clinical skills, clinical practice from the outset within your teaching. So you don't have pre-clinical years and then clinical years with BSMS. We integrate, as I say, the clinical aspect early on, and then we keep the teaching and the classroom-based activities going when you get into the predominantly clinical-based activities. We still use full cadaveric dissection. Sorry, I haven't said this for ages. It's been a year since I've done this talk. You can tell. We still use cadaveric dissection, and that will be using donor bodies, but there'll also be prosected specimens that have been prepared in advance, and we'll use imaging and computer simulation for a dissection. We have a nice range, diverse range of student-selected components that make up a very small part of your teaching in the first couple of years. It's only an hour or so a week, but a little bit of diversity and a little bit of choice for you. We've got an award-winning program called Time for Dementia, where you focus on the condition of dementia, and there's no escaping that as a condition. It's affecting millions of people worldwide. And we've also got a similar kind of project called Time for Autism. So you get to understand that condition as well. Two conditions that affect an awful lot of people around the world, and may not necessarily jump out at you as things that you'd expect to be learning around in terms of a clinical degree, but very important, and particularly dementia, conditions that you will probably face a lot of during your time as clinicians. Like every medical school, we have research projects in year 4. Again, we are pretty proud of the range of choices there, and there's an awful lot of subjects and areas that you can do your research project in, and it could be clinical, it could be lab-based, it could be community-based, it could be educationally based. So there's a lot of things that you can do, and most students will find something that really grabs their interest and things that they were interested in before they even got to us, or they were interested in during the first couple of years. Still have a lot of small group teaching, despite the fact we've got nearly 200, just over 200 cohort in each year group. Lots of feedback, lots of opportunities for us to feedback to you as students and vice versa, so we can take on board some of your comments. And underpinning everything is your personal and professional development. Those are key to you becoming doctors. It's not just about learning the science and learning the clinical skills. You've got to develop and learn to be professionals along the way. Oh, yes, we've got a large range of personal tutors. I didn't press the button to bring that last point up. So let's have a very quick look at the structure. So phase 1, which is year 1 and 2, predominantly based on campus, and that building there is the medical school teaching building on the Sussex campus. Phase 2 that's where you're predominantly clinically based. Regional partnerships that we'll talk about in a minute. That pictures the Audrey Emerton building that I mentioned earlier. And then phase 3, which is year 5, which is the business end of the degree. You'll be out on regional placements for most of the year. That's along the Sussex coast. You can see along that strip, but also we head north onto the Surrey-Sussex borders of Redhill. So there's a lot. You could be in any one of those places when it comes to year 5. So this is what your timetable would look like in terms of your first 2 years in phase 1. You can see that right at the beginning of year 1, you've got foundations of health and disease. That's bringing everyone up to the same speed, getting ready for studying at university, studying a medicine degree. You know, our students come from a variety of backgrounds. They're not all fresh out of college. You know, we've got graduates, we've got mature students who've had a break from education, we've got mature students who've been educated in the arts and then gone off and done a science qualification to get them to university. Some of those mature students have had other careers. And obviously, we've also got students from overseas. So we need to make sure everyone's at the same speed. In January, when you come back after the winter break, heart, lungs and blood, which is the module that you do. So that's, hopefully you've worked out what you're being taught there. It's around the thoracic region. Everything's around that thoracic region, heart, lungs and blood. That's the focus of your teaching and your learning. But be ready when you come back after the winter break. It jumps. It goes from first year undergraduate level teaching to second year undergraduate level after 1 term. So you've got to be ready to hit the ground running. You can also see that moving through each of those first 2 years, you've got clinical and community practice, which runs through the whole year, and that personal professional development that I mentioned. At the end of each year, you have the integrated knowledge tests. So that's your KT, that's your exam, your end of year exams. But also there you can see in year 2, you've got this thing called an OSCE, which is your objective structured clinical exam. So that's a practical exam around your key clinical skills that you've picked up along the way. Phase 2, year 3, predominantly, as we've said, clinical based, immersed in clinical environments, on the job teaching, if you like. You can see you've got the blocks of medicine, surgery, elderly medicine and psychiatry. You've got a big therapeutics module, and you've got SBM, the scientific basis of medicine, where you do the science around what you see in practice. And again, more personal professional development. And then at the end of the year, you've got another OSCE and another KT. Right, year 3, this gives you an idea of the placements and the content of each placement: cardiology, respiratory, endocrinology, medicine, huge range of content in surgery. And then you've got your geriatrics and your elderly medicine that you will do as well. Placement locations mainly around Sussex. You can see Brighton and the Princess Royal Hospital in Hayley's Heath. And then at the end of the year, there's an opportunity if you wish to intercalate, and we'll talk about that in a bit more detail in a minute. And then we look at year 4 placements, which are GP. They can be locally or nationally. And then year 5, as we said, you're around the region, including Redhill. There you go. That's a good bit more detail of us as a regional centre, just so you can see the places that we will go to and the places that we will use. I'm not going to dwell on that too much. It's just a map with lots of arrows on it, but it gives you an idea of what's going on and the places we use. Okay, as we said, as I said, sorry, in between year 3 and year 4, there's an option if you wish to intercalate. So intercalation is taking a year out away from your studies to study even a BSc or an MSc. So it's a Bachelor of Science or a Master of Science in 1 year. So if it's a BSc, if it's a Bachelor of Science, you join a cohort in that final year. You'll have the same lectures as them. You'll do the same assignments as them, and you'll do a research project, and then you will hopefully graduate with that BSc after 1 year, or the MSc, and then you come back to rejoin BSMS, but obviously you're joining a new cohort because over half of your cohort will have carried on, and then you'll come back and join another cohort. About 30 to 40% of our students will intercalate each year. It's completely optional. You don't have to do it. And obviously you don't have to decide until near the time, but we'll give you plenty of time to get ready for it. Emily, I can't remember, when did we start talking to you about intercalations in year 2?
Yeah, about in near the beginning of year 2, actually. You get exposed really early.
Yeah, so we'll give you plenty of time to start thinking about it, and there's lots of opportunities for you to um, ask the staff around about it and get an idea of whether you want to do it, and whether or not it's going to be worthwhile for you. You can see that at BSMS we offer a number of MSc options, so all of our intercalations are up the equivalent of postgraduate level, master's level. But we do have partnerships with other institutions, including both of our parent institutions, which give, as you see, over 100 other options to intercalate. So yeah, lots of opportunity should you wish to do so. Here's what year 4 looks like. Specialist rotations, you can see them there, dermatology, pediatrics, not going to read them all out. Your IRP, your individual research project, which is yeah, again, it's a short research project that you'll do. And then you've got your more personal professional development, and then again another OSCE and another KT at the end of the year. Year 5, as I said already, the business end, this is where it all gets serious. Nearly there. Regional attachments, we've mentioned them already. You can see what you're going to be doing there: elderly medicine, surgery. We've mentioned where those will be. More personal professional development, it just doesn't stop. We'll give you a big chunk of time to revise for your MLA. So the MLA is effectively, it's your finals. So it was brought in by the GMC. What used to happen is each medical school would have their own final exams for students, and they'd do it at different times in the year, and they'd be doing, the content would be different. So the MLA came in, and basically the medical licensing assessment and the MLA is the same test for everyone. It's administered by the General Medical Council. It's all done at the same time, so everyone's doing the same finals now. If on the assumption that you pass that, which we always hope that you do, then you just move into Foundation 0, which is a big module, which is it's preparation for practice. It's getting you ready for getting out on the wards and to being a doctor. And then we finish off with an elective placement, 6 weeks of doing medicine somewhere that isn't Brighton and Hove. It can be just about anywhere in the world, but we won't let you go to anywhere that has a home office, or sorry, a foreign office warning from the government saying do not travel. So that will be areas that are experiencing conflict normally. So we have to, even though you're young adults and about to go into world work, we still have a responsibility for you, and still have to make sure that you're safe because it's still part of your course. And then there's that lovely little bit right at the end there which says the G word, graduation. And that's when you will get your certificates, get to dress up in your gowns, throw your hats in the air, all get together one last time to celebrate, have a bit of a party, and to show your folks and your friends and your relatives and whoever's important to you that you've done really well. So that's always a good time. We enjoy graduation. Lots of ways that we assess and feedback. I'm not going to go through them. I mentioned a lot of them as well. There's posters. It's not all about essay writing. Formative assessment, which is assessment where it's not a mark, it's not summative, it's formative. So it's just to inform your knowledge, to make sure you're on the right track. Lots of opportunities for you to feedback and for us to feedback to you. One bit of feedback that we, every now and again we take feedback on board from students and we act upon it. One bit that we had a while ago was that the elective used to be at the end of year 3 before students went into year 4. So they'd done 1 year of clinical study, and the feedback was that, you know, a lot of students, about half our students, would go to the developing world, and they were going there to really make a difference and to help, which is great. And a lot of them did. But the feedback was they had 1 year of proper clinical study and didn't feel that they were really that useful. So that was taken on board, and that was about 10 years ago now. We changed the elective to after finals, so just before you graduate, so you've got a lot more knowledge in your head and you're a lot more useful. Another bit of feedback we always get, well, most years we get, is that we test our students too much. There's too many assessments. Unfortunately, we haven't taken that on board and haven't changed that. Right, just so you know, because not everybody knows this, when you graduate from us, that's not the end of the story. There's still quite a long way to go before you become the doctor that you hope to be. So you can see there, medical school. We put 4 to 6 years. You may not all come to BSMS. Some of you may be coming as graduates and may get onto a graduate entry program, which is a 4-year course. Some of you will come to us and maybe intercalate, which makes it 6 years. Some of you may go to some of the institutions in London and other places where intercalation's compulsory. So you have to do 6 years. So it's 4 to 6 years at medical school. Then you've got your 2 foundation years after graduation, where you're start your junior doctor career, F1 and F2. And then you've got into your training, your specialty training, your GP training, before you become the doctors you want to become. And you can see there some specialty training lasts for 8 years. So that's a long old slog before you become the doctor you want to be. And it's important you know this. Years and years ago, it was nearly 20 years ago, I was working with a first year student at BSMS, and we were having the conversation about plans and where they wanted to go. And they told me about a colleague who was in halls of them, who they'd had the conversation with, and that student had said, "What do you want to do when you graduate?" And the student I was talking to said, "Well, I don't know yet because it's F1, blah blah blah." And everyone said, "Well, no, I'm going to be a surgeon when I graduate." And we had a student who came to us who was totally unaware of this long progression post graduation and thought they would be a surgeon on the day they graduated with us. So that was a bit of a nasty surprise for them, and they didn't finish first year. They dropped out. So it's important you understand this, and it's not just the time with us. There's a long, even longer stretch after you finish with BSMS. So let's talk about how you get in. I'm going to talk around A-levels because that's the degree we see most of. Other qualifications we do accept, and we take the equivalent to A-levels. If you're not sure, pop it in the Q&A and we'll pick that up at the end. But our standard offer is 3 grade A's at A-level, 2 include biology and chemistry. We have a flexible admissions policy, a contextual data offer, which is AAB. So we'll talk a little bit about the contextual data in a minute. We don't look at GCSE profile. We're not worried about masses of GCSEs and 8 or 9 grade 8s or grade 9s. We just want you to be literate and numerate. So we're looking for a grade 6 at English and maths, or grade 5 if you're getting a contextual data offer. We will use the UCAT. It'll be the first year we've used UCAT. Next year, we still haven't decided exactly how we're going to use the UCAS score. That meeting is happening at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. So hopefully next week we'll put the details on the website, exactly how we're planning to use UCAT. But we will use UCAT to select for interview. It's the only thing we're going to use. So providing you are on track for our entry criteria, we will then look at your UCAT and decide whether or not that will get you to interview. We do not use anything else. We do not use the personal statement in any shape or form. We will not look at your personal statement. Multiple mini interviews for the final bit of selection, 5 10-minute discussions. And for next year, we are going back to in-person. For interviews, we've done 3 or 4 years of virtual interviews. We're going back to in-person. International students will have a virtual option if they can't get into the UK for their interview. But if you're an international student who's based in the UK, you will have an in-person interview. And then our decision is based upon your interview performance, nothing else. Okay. So contextual data, that is, every medical school has some sort of contextual data offering flexible admissions policies. And basically, you just need to go on the website if you're a UK student and have a look to see if you meet our criteria. And if you do, as I've said earlier, it's a grade 5 in Maths and English, and the offer will be AAB. There we go. There's the criteria there. I'm not going to dwell on this. We're going to skip over it quite quickly, but you can see them there. And all of this is on the website if you need to go back. And again, if you've got any questions about, you can put it in the Q&A, or you can email us at medadmissions@bsms.ac.uk. Okay, that's it from me, I think, until we come to the Q&A. I'm going to ask Emily, because she sat there without falling asleep, listening to me droning on, which is a really good job. Well done. I've put societies, MedSoc, you can talk about that, and then we've got some pictures there. Whatever you like. A few minutes, please, Emily, and then we'll get on to the questions.
Brilliant. Yeah, there are quite a few like passport questions, that kind of thing. I will leave to you, but amazing. Great. Can you hear me as well?
Yeah.
Stunning. Okay, so hello everyone. I'm very excited to be chatting to you today because I like BSMS, which is why I'm here. So I'm just going to talk through some of the things that I think are important. So Brighton in general, first of all, is not somewhere I'd been before I came here. I thought at the time Brighton actually was a BMAT uni when I applied, and I deliberately didn't want to apply to any BMAT unis because I thought, why make more work for myself? And then I came here thinking it was a UCAT one. So I thought, great, I'll do all UCAT, it'll be easy. I got here, and then this was the first uni that I properly it felt very homey to me. Everyone was really, really lovely, which absolutely represents the uni. Looking around, and I just felt very at home here. And I was really annoyed when I came out and realized it was BMAT and had to do a whole extra exam just to get here, but it was completely worth it. So yeah, Brighton in general, as Darren's already touched upon, it is pretty close to London. It's a really cool combination of that you've got the sea right there, you've got the South Downs and like a lot of greenery, but also the city, which is great. So especially we've got a lot of my friends, got a few from London, got a few from right out in the countryside. So it's a really nice combination. It's very open, it's very accepting. It's just a very warm place to be, I think. Maybe not in winter, but it's lovely. Yes, we've also got, which we've got a few pictures of here, an amazing MedSoc, medical society, which encompasses a load of other societies, which is, I'd say, one of the best things about being here. The benefit of BSMS is that it's actually, compared to some unis, it's fairly small still. I've got about 200 people in my year now, I think, which is really nice because you do feel like you really do properly know people on your course, whereas I know sometimes it can feel quite impersonal. You really do know the people who are teaching you as well, and they actually want you to succeed. We've also got a really nice mixture of graduates, mature students, undergraduates. So it's great. So it's not like you're not going to be alone, especially if you're a grad, for sure. That's really important because there's a lot. It's great. We also have medic parents, which I love. You come, I know a few medical schools do this, but you get paired up with some newly qualified second years. They'll take you under their wing, show you the ropes, especially with like exams, essays, that kind of thing. They can be really helpful as well, especially if you haven't done that kind of thing for a while. I found that really helpful. And it's just really nice that you have like a whole medic family. So like I've got medic parents in the year above. I've got children of my own now. I've got medic grandparents. You get up with this really nice big family. You also, so within the actual MedSoc, you have a lot of societies. I don't know what the exact amount is. There's quite a few. It's not on there, but there's a lot. So depending on what, and they're also all very catered for medics. So sometimes if there isn't so much of a MedSoc at a uni, if it was just Brighton Uni societies, they're not so much catered for our timetables. Like they can have them at like 3 o'clock on a random day, which may not be doable on our timetable depending on the week. Whereas the SMS ones, they're all made for you guys to get to. And they're also put fair, they're not too big. So like I know that in some unis, the medic sports teams can be harder apparently than the main ones. They're not here. They're approachable, they're for everyone, they're very welcoming. But the great thing is that you also get to join Brighton sports teams or Sussex sports teams or any of their societies. So you actually have a whole load of different societies you can join. So like and there's a lot of time for it. So in first year, I did badminton with Brighton Uni. I did roller skating on Sussex Uni. I was just experimenting with them all. I did BSMS netball. So you can, and there's also a lot of academic societies. Depending on what you like. There's also some very random ones. I'm pretty sure there's a good Doctor Who one on the Sussex Society. But you've got a really good range. And there's just loads to do. I'm currently, I mean, even in third year, like there's time if you can juggle yourself around a bit. We have an amazing production called The Medic Review, which I think there's probably a picture of on there, which is like a big drama comedy extravaganza for medics. Great if you're into that kind of thing. I also just want to say that Brighton is really known for its soft skills, which is really important. And a lot of, especially speaking to some of my friends at other unis, a lot just don't do quite as much. So in terms of communication, empathy, just practicing those soft skills. So when you get there to that level, it's not surprising when you're suddenly talking to a patient and you can actually connect with them. And it's really good. And I've heard that from people on the wards, like they recognize that in Brighton medics. There's also just generally great teaching here. The people, like everyone here really wants you to succeed, and they do as much as they can. And like Darren said, they really do listen to our feedback. We have regular forums at every term, which is great. We can all give feedback, and you do see it implemented, which is really nice. Cut me off if I go over time, but we also have these are just the things that were really important for me, and I found. So early clinical exposure is so brilliant here. We get to go into GP and a few community placements from year 1 and year 2, which is amazing, just to get you slightly more comfortable with it. And it kind of reminds you why you're there, especially because you're not on the wards full time until year 3. It's amazing to be able to just remind yourself of what you're learning and why it's so important. So I've loved that. We also, again, Darren mentioned the student selected components, which you have in year 1 and year 2, and just gives you a bit of an opportunity to follow something new. It's really great. I think I did creative writing. Like they're not all medical related. So I did creative writing in year 1 for a term. There's a music one. There's one where you can, it's about examining different skulls from different animals through time. Like there's so many, it's really interesting. So that's quite a cool feature. And also dissection. I didn't think that would be particularly important to me, to be honest, when I applied. But Brighton is very proud that they do full body dissection. One of the last few unis that do that. And yeah, I didn't think that would be as useful as it has been, but honestly, it's been absolutely amazing. I can't really imagine learning anatomy as well without that. And it's also quite special. You won't get many chances to do something as special as that. So that's really good. Are you happy for me to chat through just like a couple of the questions I felt I could answer, Darren?
Yeah, go for it. I think that's a good idea. Yeah, please.
So I think one of the questions is, why is intercalation important? Or what's its value? I'm intercalating next year, so that's I haven't quite done it yet, but I think I can give a fair answer. So until recently, intercalation gave you some points when you were applying for foundation training after you finish medical school, which you can research. They've recently changed how that's all being done, so it doesn't give you points anymore, which is important to be aware of. But it's generally your interest. If you find something you're really interested in and you'd love to take a year to go and follow that in Brighton or at a different university, then why not? I think it's a great opportunity, really. I'm doing women's health in London next year. It was important for me not to choose a course that made you do intercalation, purely because you never know how you're going to feel when you get there. And also the great thing about BSMS is that they do let you do it other places, whereas some lock you into their uni. But yeah, so it's mainly about enjoyment. It also lets you get an insight into research, which is not something that you would have tried until that point. You do a research project here in year 4 as well, so it can prepare you for that. Yeah. Also had a question about how frequent are examinations. So I wouldn't say that they're hugely frequent, but each their own, I suppose. So in year 1, you have, so the main examinations that you have are practical exams, which are called OSCEs, which you don't have the first one until year 2, because you won't have done enough. And you also have basically a massive multiple choice question test at the end, which is just all the stuff you've learned that year. So in year 1, you have your very first multiple choice big test at the end of the first term. So that will just help basically get everyone up to the same speed. So if you don't do so well on that one, you can redo that, and it just makes sure that everyone's at the same level to then move on. And then from that point, you have one of those big tests at the end of every year, but you don't have anything else within the year. It's just at the end. And then the practical exam, again, it's the same thing, just at the end of the year. So I found that really nice. Like, it's a stressful end of the year, but I prefer that to having exams every term. You do have a couple of essays. I don't think you have more than 2, possibly 3 a year. Maybe 2, maybe 3 in year 1, but I had 1 this year. It's really, if you don't like essays, I'm not a fan, so I really like this way of doing it. You also have a few ad hoc presentations here and there, but I personally wouldn't say that we're over-assessed. I'm sure maybe people have different opinions. The pass mark percentages, maybe Darren knows that one better. I'm not sure off the top of my head what the pass marks are for our exams, but somewhere between 50 and 60%, I'd say.
It varies. It's around about that level. Basically,
Yeah.
there's a process for every exam.
Yeah.
They call it standard setting. So they will look at the questions. A group of people will look at each question and think, how many people should get this right? How many people shouldn't? It's a common practice at university and all courses standard setting. And from that, and then it also depends how people do on the day as well.
But it's not unrealistic. Like, they're not trying to trip you up, for sure. And you do get an opportunity to reset. So yeah. I think, what was it? Anything else? Armed forces. Someone asked about that. How many people go on to do that? I definitely know of 2 people. I don't know everyone in our year, what their career goals are, but I know at least 2 people who are interested in doing that. I don't think it's massively common, but it is definitely something that can be done if you're interested and you're well informed on it. I definitely recommend researching it thoroughly. But there are people who do it.
Yeah, we get every year we'll have graduates who go and join the forces. Some will have made that decision before they even get to us, and will be sponsored by whichever armed force they want to join. So basically, the way that works is you say you want to join the Navy, you sign up to them before you effectively become a reservist, which means if we went to war, you'd get called up first. But also you are expected to give some of your time each year, sort of training camps and things like that. And basically they will pay your fees. They sponsor you to be a student. And then when you graduate, your first job, your foundation job, will be in the armed forces, or will be in the Navy, and you'll do your foundation training in the forces, and you commit to the armed forces for a certain amount of time, depending on the agreement you make with them. I don't know how long that is, but I think it's at least 3 or 5 years. I can't remember which, but anyway, it's definitely foundation and beyond. Yeah, so basically you're earning your degree and you're committing yourself. But yeah, we've always had 1 or 2. It's literally a handful of students. There's not huge numbers, but there's lots of opportunities. And yeah, if you're interested, you can find out lots of information before you get here. And it's something you can sign up for once you're here as well. You don't have to make that commitment at the start of your course. Okay, I'm going to go through the questions. If there's anything
Okay,
else we come to that I think Emily's best suited to answer, I'll chuck it back to Emily. Okay, let's go from the top. If you get AAB for predicting to the way, we'll still consider the application. So your prediction has to meet our standard offer. So unless you're contextual data, if you're contextual data and your offer will be AAB, you'd be fine. If you're not contextual data, your offer will be AA. If you're not predicted that, we will not progress your application. IB is treated in the same way as the A levels. Obviously, the only thing is it's a different outcome in terms of grade, but it's considered exactly the same. It's 36 points overall, a grade 6 in higher level biology and chemistry, and a contextual offer will be 35 points overall, and I believe a 5 in biology and chemistry. So yeah, it's not treated any differently. We don't, as I said earlier, don't know the minimum UCAT score yet. We're having that meeting tomorrow to decide how we're going to deal with it. If you're not successful with your BSMS application and decide to do pharmacy biochem at Brighton, how many places are there for a transfer scheme? Well, there is no transfer scheme, so there you go. That's the answer to that one. You can't transfer onto our course. We do a guaranteed interview scheme. So, and it is literally a guaranteed interview and nothing more. So if you went to do one of those courses at Brighton, or there's other courses also at Sussex that are part of that scheme, if you meet our entry criteria, i.e. you got 3 A's but weren't successful in getting into us, you can apply in your first year to as part of the guaranteed interview scheme, and you'll get your interview during that year. There will be entry, and there will be a condition, so you'll have to get a certain mark in your first year to fulfill your place, or you can go for the guaranteed interview in year 3, in your final year, and come to us as a graduate. But it's a one-time offer, so you have to make up your mind if you do it in the first or the third year. You can't do it in both. Both institutions have lots of details about that. Can students apply for accommodation and finance without a national insurance number? I don't know. That's not anything I deal with. Accommodation, I'm pretty sure you can apply for. Finance is not dealt with by BSMS. That's the student finance company. So you'll have to make further inquiries on that. If you've requested one, then it makes me suspect you probably need one. But I'm afraid I can't answer that one. If you're a British national but live overseas and have an EU nationality, or do you apply as an abroad or home? You have to get in touch with us, and we'll have to let you know that it's not as simple as that. It's not that cut and dry. It depends on, there's EU agreements, but regardless of your nationality, if you do not live in the UK, then unless you're part of one of the nations within the EU that there's agreements with, you'll be cast as an overseas student. You have to have lived in the UK for 3 years, up to the time you apply to get home fees. It's all around tax, basically, and the tax that your parents pay, because the tax that is paid is what subsidises home students. So if you haven't been living in the UK, you're not paying the taxes to subsidise you as a home student. So it's not a simple process. I can't just give you a yes or no now. There's lots of things to be decided on that one. Okay, so you'll have to get in touch for that. Can you please expand on SBM? Do you want to expand on SBM a little bit more about? Oh, you haven't done it yet, have you? Oh, you have. You're year 3 now, aren't you? Yeah. So you've done some SBM, haven't you? Yeah.
As in like the scientific block at the start of year 1, or just continuously?
No, scientific basis of medicine in year 3.
Oh, right. Yeah, so it's basically just, honestly, there's quite a lot of overlap. But it will be, so generally in each section you'll learn about a specific part of medicine. So for example, you might have lectures on that specific day about the heart in general, and then the next week it will be about gastrointestinal, like neurology, that kind of thing. So you'll have that following you throughout the module. But so the SBM will focus on specific things within that as well. So there's a lot of overlap, to be honest. Sometimes it can be like the less clinical aspect of that. So maybe we'll learn about scanning, and more about certain pathologies within the morning. And then if we're doing scientific basis, it might be more on the actual science of it. But honestly, there's a lot of overlap. But it will generally just help you understand more of what's actually happening on the wards. So yeah.
Thank you very much. Okay, how do you select for interview students who've done UKWP Med program? Okay, so if you qualify as part of the UKWP Med program, that means you'll get a lower offer. What happens is you still have to do the UCAT. You go into our contextual data pool of students. So we consider all our contextual data students first for interview, and 30% of our interviews will go to them. So your decision for interview will still be based around your UCAT score. Why don't you include ethnic minorities in the contextual data list? So contextual data list is not set in stone. It's something we've got meetings coming up to consider what we look at. It's around getting students to BSMS that are underrepresented, and ethnicity is not really underrepresented at BSMS. So it's, we've done it around economic background and geographical location. So we are trying to, particularly around Sussex, there's big pockets of Sussex that we want to try and get students to come and study with us. We've also done it around disability. So ethnic minorities is not an underrepresented group for BSMS. Is there a variety of accommodation available in the area after first year? There's tons of it. Seriously, there is so much. I mean, you won't struggle to find somewhere to live after the first year. You may not necessarily find your ideal choice of the thing you really, really want, but you won't struggle. Emily, anything you want to share?
Yeah, there's a good range of houses for a lot of different budgets. So like I'm in quite a fairly cheap place at the moment, which is great. So yeah, you can definitely find for a range. Yeah, it's good.
Very much. What is the teaching style like? Are there many lectures? Is small group teaching more PBL? Again, do you want to share your experiences on that one, Emily?
Yeah, I think it varies as you go through. Definitely, it's more lecture based than anything, but you definitely do have some small group teaching on a weekly basis. You probably have 1 or 2 sessions, and you have like ad hoc sessions as well as you go through. Obviously, it becomes more ward based from year 3. But you still do have like some small group teaching in there, but mainly lecture based. Yeah, you do have some practical stuff though.
Thank you. A question about the French bac. You have to do biology. You've got to do chemistry and biology in the French bac, so you've got to do both of those. You need 15 in each of them. If you're not sure, drop us an email. We can give you some more detail. We do not consider the EPQ in the offer. It's not something that we consider. It's a useful thing for you to do. It can enhance your application in other places, and it could be something you might find you can talk about in interview. Depends on what happens, it depends what you do for your EPQ. But certainly, we're not saying just because we don't consider it as part of the offer doesn't mean we don't say it's of any value. So yeah. How much diversity is there on campus specific around in terms of ethnicity? The campus is pretty diverse. Brighton and Hove as a city is a pretty multicultural, pretty diverse place. It's not hugely diverse. The county of Sussex is not a hugely diverse place, but there is if you took the campus as a pocket of the county, there's more diversity on campus than there is in the county or in the city of Brighton and Hove. So there is a lot of diversity. We do get students from all around the world, and international students make up a large amount of the student body at the University of Sussex and at Brighton. So it is an ethnic diverse place. How does accommodation work in the later years when you're so if you were stuck in Hastings or Red Hill in year 5, you'll get hospital accommodation for your placement. He won't expect you to travel. But prior to that, then it's, it's, as we've just mentioned, after year one, it's accommodation in the city. In year two, a lot of students will stay close to Falmer because it's there. And then once you get into year three and beyond, lots more students will head into the centre of Brighton and Hove. There's an awful lot of accommodation around the hospital. When it was on 21 years ago, when it's announced that we were going to have a medical school in the city and going to be using the hospital, lots of people who had the foresight bought up houses with 2, 3, 4 bedrooms very cheaply in readiness for medical students. And lots of people made lots of money. That does, and most of those people have provided good accommodation, nice houses at a good price. So
yeah, I did want to say as well, like when if you are somewhere far away and the med school's giving you accommodation, it's not bad as well. Like one of my friends was in Hastings very recently. She had an Airbnb over with a sea view, so you can't knock it really.
Nice, great. If you do intercalation in London, do you have to apply by yourself to the uni? You're going to London, aren't you?
I am, yes. Yes, the uni, so the uni basically give you information about applying in general, but you do have to apply yourself. What is really helpful is that because it's a bit different to like writing a personal, it's similar to be fair, but obviously when you're writing a personal statement, especially for medical school, there's guidance all over Google of how to do it, what looks good, what doesn't. Whereas for intercalation, that isn't necessarily, but because it's quite a close-knit medical school, you can kind of just reach out, and like I found like 4 people who had done the course that I wanted to do, and they gave me some really good advice. But yes, you apply yourself, but there's guidance from them how to do it. It's not particularly time consuming. You don't have to do any admissions tests. You just write a statement, so it's not that bad at all.
Exactly. We don't rank GCSEs. As I said earlier, we're just looking for a minimum requirement of a grade 6 in maths and English. So we're not worried about the rest of them. We will not rank them. Would you be considered for resitting AS level? We won't even look at your AS level. That's fine. If you're resitting your AS, that's not an issue at all. It's the final grade we're interested in. IB, if you get a 7 in biology higher, 6 in the second higher, and 5 in chemistry, is it still possible? Nope. It has to be a 6 in biology and chemistry. Okay, so you've got to get a 6 in that. If you get a 7 in one and a 6 in the other, that's great, but we don't, it's not adding up to 12. It's not 6 and 6 does make it 12, but not in this case. So a 7 and a 5 is not the answer. You have to get a 6 in both. How is the OIB? I don't know what the OIB is. So you're going to have to help me out. Let's have a bit more detail on that one, please, Mia, and then I'll answer your question. Is it compulsory to live on campus in year 1 and 2? No, it's not compulsory to live on campus in year 1. Campus, we don't offer accommodation in year 2, and unless it's very, very exceptional circumstances, and then it's very rare. It has to be very exceptional. So it's just for year 1. How do you stop yourself getting student debt? Well, if you can find an answer to that one, you might be able to make a lot of money telling everyone else how not to get student debt. Let's be honest here. Being a student is tough financially. Brighton and Hove is the most expensive city to be a student outside of London. We won't hide from the fact. You need to know it's going to cost you a lot of money to be a student. You can get some part-time work, but as you progress through the course, the opportunities become less because the demands of the course become more. So as you get into clinical years, it's harder to have a part-time job during the week. Not impossible, but it's much harder. So lots of students who are worried about the possibility of debt will try and earn as much money as they can before they get to us. And then they will work in the vacation times and try and squirrel away as much money as possible. And then it's when you get here, it's about finding ways to make your money last if you can.
Yeah.
If you're same with anything in life, if you're sensible, you can make it go further. A big mistake students make, and this is a generalization, it's not all students, buying takeaway for dinner. You can't afford to do that.
Too easy.
You can't afford it. But if you're in a flat and there's 8 of you, if you all chip in and share the cooking and share the shopping, your money as a group will go further. There's lots of ways. Emily, do you want to just give a few insights that you've had?
Yeah, I was going to say, I obviously, if you're talking about like having a student loan as debt, then that's just what it is. You can't really, I would say, don't think of a student loan as debt. Obviously, it kind of is, but like it's a different kind of debt. It will take you where like it's needed, to be honest. But from day to day, like yeah, I work in summers as an HCA at the hospital, which is kind of great, get clinical stuff experience, but also money. But I know a lot of people who will do like non-healthcare work, which is really fun as well. I would say, I mean, yeah, I would agree. Like in the earlier years, you can probably do it a little bit in the week if you want. Some people can definitely do more than others. It's really up to you and finding your balance. I personally didn't really want to work in the term. But the med school do ad hoc work for you as well. So like this kind of thing, where if you want to get involved with talking to people who are applying or younger years and kind of helping them up, you can definitely do that. So there's ad hoc stuff, but I'd say start by doing some stuff in the holidays if you want. Find that really useful. But in general, like day to day, yeah, just you definitely can. If you are really on a money saving mode, you absolutely can. It's not Brighton is expensive to live in, but there's Lidl's, there's Aldi's. It can definitely be done. Yeah.
Thanks, Emily. There's another question here. So actually, even directly at you, Emily, how do you balance work and personal life?
That is that's a great question. I don't think anyone ever fully cracks that. I think all of us are a little bit floating between the two ends constantly. You'll have a week where you're like, oh my God, I've had the best week of my life here. Oh, I've done no work. Or sometimes you just do that and absolutely nothing else. But I think especially from year one, you're oscillating around a bit. You're figuring out what works for you. And it's also about not comparing yourself to other people, because some people are absolutely incredible at somehow going out every single day and also always being at their desk. And that might be you, which is incredible. I'm not great at that. So timetabling is really, really good. Timetable yourself, having lists so you don't forget deadlines, and accepting that you're all going to have different things that work for you, different strategies. Some people might like to do like 2 hours a night. Some people might just kind of work ad hoc. So it's honestly completely about you. But working together as a group, like you're housed together in first year if you choose to be. And I would say that like helped me a lot, because at least you can see each other's schedules and you can help each other working as a group. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Good. Mia, thanks for adding that. Yeah, OIB, yeah, we would consider it in the same way as we consider the French bac. I'll be honest, we get very few applicants with the French bac. I haven't done for a long time, but we do consider it's the same requirements as the French bac. Hopefully that answers your question. If not, it's probably best to drop us an email and go into a bit more detail. Are there overseas opportunities such as going to another country for a year during your medical school? No. We'll keep you here, keep you in the UK. There's the intercalation options are your only options to get away for a year. Is it. Okay, that is the last question on the Q&A. I will give you a couple of seconds to type anything in if you just thought of a question. If you don't do it quickly, I'm going to bring it all to an end. Send you on your way. Just a reminder, there's other resources on our website, so there's other things you can do. There's some videos and things that you can look at to get a bit more information about the medical school. We do have an open day in June. The date escapes me. I know it's in June now. I think it might 11th or something around then. But again, that is on the website and quickly having a
yeah
look.
I recommend going to that. It's really good to get like an actual taste of the medical school and meet some of the people. Like it's really good, really worth it.
So yeah, the 15th of June is the
there's a couple more questions.
In-person open date. So if you want to do that, you can. I appreciate that most people here can't, which is why they're here, but just so you know, it's on the 15th of June, and there are more resources on our virtual open day hub on the website. Right. How many hours of volunteering would I need to get accepted? None is the honest answer. We don't have a prerequisite. We do not state you have to have any number of hours of volunteering. We don't say, BSMS doesn't say you have to do any volunteering at all. That doesn't mean you shouldn't, because it will enhance you and enhance your application to us and other places.
Good thing to like talk about in interviews, but it's definitely not needed. Like there's loads of ways you could have done those kind of things.
Absolutely. It's about insight. You're volunteering about gaining insight into medicine and health and how people are looked after and the skills you need to look after people. And Emily mentioned those soft skills. It's about seeing those in practice, developing them for yourselves. So we do not put any figure on the amount you do. But if you do it, the chances are you will probably be able to draw on those experiences at least one of the questions you get interviewed, possibly more. How much preparation did you UCAT? I'm going to think you meant Ethan rather than UCAS. Did you do UCAT?
I did. Yeah, I think it definitely depends on you. If you look online, when I did it, I think people advise like 4 to 6 weeks or something. I wouldn't go months and months, definitely, because I don't think it will be that helpful. I think I did about 5 or 6 weeks, and but I definitely know people who did less than that. I know people who did more than that. I think that was quite a good amount because you don't want to burn out just doing the UCAT. But main advice for that is like select the topics that you really do think you're struggling with. Like for me, it was quantitative reasoning. I found that really hard. And abstract reasoning was the shapes, that was it. And I would literally like do it in front of the TV. I would just flick through questions, like it's literally is just practice, just doing it again and again. So yeah.
Yeah, and the one thing we'll say about that is there's no need to go and buy any books about it.
Yeah.
There's no pay anyone to go on a course for it.
Yeah, never pay to go on a get into medicine course or anything. Like it upsets me so much people pay this money, because Google is the best place ever. There's so much there. There's so many practice questions. You do not need to be paying for a course.
And actually, in fact, UCAT themselves have past papers, they have a practice paper, they have lots of resources that you can use, more than enough resources for you to be able to prepare well for the UCAT exam. Emily, I think this is another one for you. Why did you choose BSMS specifically?
Yeah, I've kind of covered this already, really, but yeah, it was just very kind people. It was a course that seemed more than just medicine, like the student selected components I really liked. I thought that was really unique. MedSoc had loads going on. I was kind of interested in sports, interested in drama. Yeah, that was it. I thought the course was just really interesting. People were lovely. Those are the main bits to recap.
There you go. There you go. And it's our teaching is very good. We're, as I
Really
said,
good.
medical school, so we're dynamic. We are.
And I also was going to say, in terms of dissection, I forgot to say when I applied, I was a bit wary because I'd seen a lot of medical schools don't do dissection anymore. So I was like, oh, why don't they do it? But I remember talking to someone who was a medical student, and I can now attest for sure that the head of our anatomy department actually writes the curriculum for all the medical schools. They're a really amazing anatomy department, incredible instructors. She writes like the textbooks and stuff that a lot of people learn from. So anatomy is very good here as well.
Yeah, it's a damn fine city to be a young person. It's not a bad city to be middle-aged or as well, but it's a good place to live. Right, would virtual work experience be seen as equal to physical work experience? Again, it's what you learn from it, it's what you take from it. Okay, if you learn from it, when we brought out the virtual work experience tool during COVID, it was very useful. It served the purpose because of what was happening around the world. We've kept it going because it's still a useful tool, still helps people learn, people who potentially can't get physical work experiences. And there are some medical schools who do actually, who are looking for work experience, who do have set amounts of work experience you need, who will still accept it as part of the work experience. So yeah, again, don't get hung up on what's good, what isn't, and how much you do. It's what you learn from it that matters. You know, as long as you learn on it, you reflect on what you see and what you do, then it's of value. No plans to do medical apprenticeship at the moment, and possibly, well, certainly that's not going to be a discussion for quite a while. Could you please elaborate more on F1 or 2? Why is it necessary after medical school and what do you learn? It's part of the process. So there's always been this career path that we had the slide for. It just used to be called junior doctors a long time ago, and then it became this. It was a bit more structured, a bit more standardized. So foundation. So you will your foundation years, your F1 and your F2 will be in a certain area, and you will have you'll be doing certain areas of medicine. So you may be doing, I don't know, surgery and elderly medicine in your F1 year, and more surgery and general medicine or elderly medicine in your F2 year. Who knows? It depends on the job you get given and where it is. So it's a medical school gets you ready for being a junior doctor. It doesn't get you ready to be a doctor. It gets you on that next rung of the ladder. When you graduate from us, you are doctors. You register with the GMC. You are doctors. You earn a wage as an F1. You have a proper job within the NHS, but it is part of that progression. It's part of your career path. You know, it's the same as anyone else graduating from any degree. They're not going to, very unlikely, they're going to go from their degree into being the chief executive of a huge company somewhere. You know,
it also just like gives you the position for everyone to know that yes, you are a doctor on the team, but also you're not going to be left unsupervised in situations that you're not prepared for and ready for. Like, it means you get the support. So it's really good.
And it's part of that process. It's about
Government.
on the job learning, if you like. It's on the job teaching, and all through your career, there's still more exams. You're not just, your exams don't stop when you graduate. You're going to go. You've got exams all the way through, and you've got to keep your competency up. You've got to keep showing that you're competent as a doctor. So get used to it. It's. I don't like hard work. I'm going to rethink. How many people drop out of the course? Oh, I can't tell you that. It varies. You know, people. We don't get huge amounts. The numbers are very small, and people drop out for all sorts of reasons. You know, it will be health related. It will be finances. It will be people who realise actually medicine isn't the right thing for them. We do get people. The numbers are very small. It's probably no more than 2, 3, 5% at the most each year group, not dropping out each year, who won't get to the end. So the numbers aren't huge, and more people are likely to leave the course because unfortunately they failed academically rather than dropping out. So we every year we'll have 1 or 2 people in each year group that we actually have to ask to leave the course because academically they're not robust enough. But again, those numbers are small. So if you fail first year, can you take it until you pass? No, you can't take it until you pass.
You do get to retake it once, but it's like every single year you get to. I believe from year 1. I don't know if I think first year is a bit different. You retake it, and then if you don't, I don't think you do get another opportunity unless you have extenuating circumstances. But after that, you can retake, and then potentially, depending on your circumstances, you may get an opportunity to resit the year more so as you go up. But yeah, it's not like
depends on what you fail, how badly you fail. As I say, if there's any mitigations to reasons for your failure, but also what you have to remember is you're on the clock. You have, from the day you start, you've got 8 years to complete the course from the day you start. So you can't keep repeating because you've got to be current. You've got to be, what you learn in first year still has to be relevant and current when you graduate. If it takes too long, it isn't. You might have forgotten something. So you haven't got a lot. Okay, I'm going to say this is the last question because I suppose we'll take a couple more and then we had a flurry. So Emily, what inspired you to be a medical student?
Like I'm being interviewed here. Well, I suppose if you want me to try and recycle my response, still pretty similar. I think if you're not going in to somewhat help people, then perhaps you're lying, maybe, or you're maybe not on the course for the right reasons. But yeah, I think it's a very interesting course. It's just a very interesting course. You get to really see into people's lives, and it's also, I almost went into like, I thought, consider going to police force as well. So the detective side of it's really interesting, very hands on. Yeah, I won't give you the full spiel, but definitely do consider that answer, and consider that's one thing I will say, work experience. If you can't get it, that's fine, but if you can, that's one of the best reasons to try and figure out if you do want to go into it and why. Because like me, I just wanted to get behind the curtain and see what was happening the whole time. But it's a great opportunity to see. Yeah.
Yeah, that I think that last point is really, really useful. You know, if you're not 100% sure if you can get some work experience, then part of that work experience isn't just to tick a box, it is to give you insight to help you make that decision. But you know, if you're thinking about applying in October, you probably should know by now. You shouldn't, if you're wavering, you probably need to take another year to have a bit of a think and to decide if it's the right thing for you. Because the worst thing anyone can do is to start any course and then realize it's not the right thing and having wasted time. So yeah, have a good old think about it. Cool. Thank you, folks, for spending some time with us. I hope it's been useful. Thank you, Emily, for your insights. They've been very useful. And we wish you the best of luck with whatever you do, folks. Thank you very much. I'm going to close the meeting down. It will be very abrupt and everyone will be kicked out as soon as I close it. So don't be surprised by that. But thanks very much, everybody. Cheers. Bye now.
Thank you. Have a good evening.